Look, sweetheart and care what the new diversity quotas say. This is my mat. On my mat, you're a liability until you prove otherwise. And right now, all I see is somebody who's going to get a real operator killed. You clear? That was the first thing out of Lieutenant Davis's mouth as I stepped onto the blue rubber mat in the old, humid gym down at Coronado Basia. The same gym where every Navy hopeful tries not to puke during their first real combatives class. The air was thick with sweat, disinfectant, and something almost electric-like everybody was waiting for a train wreck, but couldn't quite look away. I wasn't nummy uniform, was sun-faded, the patches soft from 100 washes, nothing fancy, nothing to draw a second look in a crowded mess hall. And that's just how I liked it. But Davis? Oh, he was the opposite. All sharp creases, boots shined to a mirror, barking like a high school football coach who's watched too many action movies. The rest of the class just circled us, nervous, some half grinning at his jokes, some just praying not to get noticed. I could hear their snickers, see the way they glanced at me, hoping I'd blow it, so at least they wouldn't be next. But I spotted Master Chief Thorn over by the door, half in shadow, arms crossed, not saying a word. His face barely moved, but I caught his eyes. He was watching the way I planted my feet, the way I kept my weight, how I tracked Davis, not just his words, but his breathing, his balance, every tiny shift. He saw something nobody else did. The lieutenant just saw a box to check off, an example to use, someone to make a point at my expense. And believe me, he intended to make it. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Davis started up, voice echoing, the modern battlefield doesn't have room for hesitation. Out there it's violence, it's force, it's the things we teach right here on this map, because when your rifle runs dry, when you're one-on-one, all you've got is your training. He paused like he expected applause. Some sailors nodded, some looked away. You could tell they'd never seen real violence up close, they just knew who had the power, and they wanted to stay on the right side of it. Then he turned to me. We cannot afford to carry dead weight. We can't lower our standards. Petty Officer Morgan, here through no fault of her own, just happens to represent a disadvantage. Smaller frame, lower muscle mass. It's not an insult, it's just biology. Facts can get you killed if you ignore them. He actually gestured at me, like I was a mannequin at a science fair. That got another round of uneasy laughter. But I kept my face neutral, breathing slow, counting it out in my head, waiting, not for him, but for the problem to present itself. I'd solved it before, in much uglier places. Davis must have read my silence as weakness, confirmation he was right. So we'll use the petty officer here to demonstrate a common grapple escape. You'll see why technique matters. He marched up, grabbed my arm, not gentle either, like he needed everyone to know he was in charge. I was surrounded by people who saw me as a punchline, with a boss who saw me as a prop, but you know what? The mat is honest. The mat tells the truth about everybody, sooner or later. He started his little lecture, twisting my arm, talking about leverage and dominant positions, probably hoping he'd wrench a yelp or at least a flinch out of me. See? Weight advantage. Neutralizes your ability to strike or draw a weapon. Only fractions of a second to counter explosive power, perfect timing, aggression drilled into you. Each move was a little show of disrespect, wanted them to see me struggle, maybe fail, just so he could prove his point. He started pushing harder. Now, the academy counter is to shrimp your hips, create a wedge, but he leaned in, voice low, just for me, but let's be honest, you'll never generate the force to move someone my size. He shoved me, and I just didn't move. Not out of stubbornness, but because that's the trick, you don't fight force with force. My feet just absorbed it. I could feel him getting annoyed. Let's try something a little more dynamic, he said, ramping up the show. Attacker isn't just holding you. He's striking. He swung his hand at my face, slow, like a bad stage punch. I barely moved, just enough to let it pass. Second try, a little faster, still nothing. No flinch, no panic, just economy of motion. That made him furious. He needed a reaction, needed to prove something, and it wasn't about the technique. You're not taking this seriously, petty officer, he snapped, voice full of ego now. And then just snapped. His hand didn't stop, didn't pull back, just cracked across my jaw with a real, open-handed slap. The whole gym went dead, quiet, no more nervous laughter, just shock. He wanted to humiliate me, to get a yelp, or a flinch, or at least some fear. But here's the thing about quiet people. Sometimes, you're just watching the storm get ready to break. For a second, I let the silence stretch. Then just like that, my body took over. No anger, just duty. I broke his grip with a twist of my wrist, caught his hand on a pressure point, drove my other fingers stiff and fast right to the nerve cluster in his neck. Not a punch, just a flick of the switch. His arm went dead, dropped useless. Before he could blink, I spun in, used his weight, sent him stumbling. He outweighed me by 60 pounds easy, but leverage doesn't care about weight. He was off balance, falling but controlled. I dropped him flat, pinned him with my knee, forearm across his throat not to choke him, just to let him know he wasn't moving unless I let him. Whole thing. Maybe 2 seconds, start to finish. When I let up, the room was frozen. Davis looked up, not angry now, just scared, lost. I'd seen that look before, usually in somebody who just realized everything they thought they knew was wrong. Then Master Chief Thorne stepped in, no rush, no drama, just that presence that fills the space. Petty officer, on your feet. His words sliced through the tension. I stood up steady, not even breathing hard. Davis scrambled up, already red and blustering, but the Master Chief cut him off cold. Not one word, Lieutenant. Davis shut his mouth so fast you'd think he'd swallowed his tongue. Thorne circled us. Eyes missing nothing, looked at the red mark on my jaw, at Davis's shaking hands, at the young sailors whose whole worldview had just exploded. Then he looked me right in the eye. "What's your name?" "Morgan, Master Chief." My voice was steady, flat. He nodded. Then he turned to his aide, young guy, probably wishing he was invisible. "Give me Morgan's record." "Full jacket. Tier 1 clearance." That got the room's attention. Tier 1 meant special access, the kind you don't even mention out loud. Everybody watched as the aide worked his tablet, fingers shaking. When Thorne finally read the file, something changed in his eyes, like he just realized there was a tiger in the room, and it wasn't caged. He looked out at the sailors. "For those who have forgotten the fundamentals, let me provide a lesson. First, respect. Second, never make assumptions." He turned the full force of that stare on Davis. "You saw a subordinate, and you saw someone to disrespect. You were wrong." Then he read the file name. Specialist Morgan, not petty officer. Naval Special Warfare Development Group. SEAL Team 6. 7 combat deployments. Everything else, classified. The room just stopped. Some of those kids probably didn't even believe SEAL Team 6 was real, and now one of them was standing on a mat in front of them. Thorne looked at me, saw the old scar over my eyebrow, saw all the things I'd learned to hide. Then, in front of everybody, that legend of Master Chief snapped to attention and saluted Mess Harp, perfect, like you do for someone who's earned it in blood and sweat. "Specialist Morgan, my apologies for the conduct of my officer. It will be dealt with. Thank you for your demonstration." Everything flipped upside down right there. You could feel the shift, the hierarchy turn inside out. That story didn't stay in the gym. It slid through the base like a rumor nobody dared say out loud, spreading from the mess hall to the barracks, whispered after lights out. Some said I'd taken down 3 officers at once. Others said I'd done it blindfolded. But the core of it never changed. Quiet competence, left arrogance, gasping on the mat. Davis? Gone. One day he was barking orders. The next he was reassigned to some staff job in D.C., far from any real action. Unofficial word was, Master Chief Thorne walked him straight to the base commander's office, where there was 10 minutes of silence, then a few words so cold they made the secretary outside shiver. Davis wasn't court-martialed, just made irrelevant. Around the base, pulling a Davis became slang for getting your ego handed to you by someone you underestimated. They even changed the training curriculum. Module 7 leverage based takedowns against a larger opponent. Everyone called it the Morgan counter. On the blue mat, somebody drew a star in black marker, right where Davis's head had landed. It stayed there, a little secret memorial to what really mattered: respect, competence, character. As for me, I just kept doing my job, showing up on time, cleaning my gear, keeping to myself. People parted in the hallway now. Conversations died when I sat down. They treated me like a legend, but honestly, I didn't want that. I wanted normal, wanted to blend in, but that's the price. One day a young sailor stopped me in the weight room. All nerve, said, "Ma'am, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen." I finished my set of pull-ups, looked him dead in the eye, said, "It was just leverage and timing. The technique is the point, not the person." He tried to argue, but I cut him off. Assumptions are a liability. He made one about me. That's all. Don't make the same mistake. Don't assume I'm special. Assume the training works. And that's how it went. Over time, the story became less about me and more about the lesson. That mark on the mat? Every new class of recruits got the speech, "This is the Davis mark." It's named after a lieutenant who thought rank was the same as strength. He learned the hard way that respect is earned, not given. They let the silence sit. Let the kids look down at their own fresh uniforms and think. It changed things. Instructors started watching for the quiet ones. Officers listened more. Sailors defended each other a little faster. People learned to look past the surface. The legacy wasn't some big heroic statuette, was the new normal. The girl who walked onto the mat without fear, the officer who listened to a salty old petty officer, the culture that judged you by your actions, not your noise. I left for other duties, and the story kept growing, getting told and retold, the details morphing, but the core staying strong. The star on the mat faded, but its meaning deepened. My legacy wasn't what happened in 2 seconds that afternoon. It was the chain reaction that kept going, one quiet act of competence at a time. That's the truth. Legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about leaving the standard higher than you found it. So here's my question for you. When's the last time you judged somebody by how they look or how loud they talk instead of what they can really do? Would you have seen the danger or just the checkbox? I want to hear your stories. Where did you see respect earned the hard way or arrogance get put in its place? Drop your thoughts below and let's get a real conversation started, because in the end, the world changes not with a bang, but with a quiet standard set over and over by the ones who never needed to shout.